Never let it be said that I am not happy to ride the coattails of a significantly more successful YouTuber. What's going on, everybody? I'm Jay. Welcome to Square Pegs. If you are new here, appreciate you stopping by. If you're a returning viewer, glad you have come back. It's nothing but love. Glad you are here. Today we are taking a cue from someone that, any of us that are making gaming content should probably be taking a cue from, and that's Jirard the Completionist. Jirard recently did this video where he was talking about his top 10 SNES games, or a revisited list where he's talking about the games that mean the most to him from the SNES. And while this is not a shot-for-shot remake of that in any stretch of the imagination, I do like the way that he does his videos. And if there's anything that we should do more regularly, it's we should talk about the things we love, the things that bring us joy. So I'm giving you my top 10 SNES games, and we are kicking things off with one you've probably played.
Now, right off the bat, these aren't the 10 games that I keep coming back to on the SNES. These aren't the games that spoke to me as a child, necessarily, that I think are just the most phenomenal games of all time. Case in point is this first one here. This is Yoshi's Island. When I was younger, I hated this game. Couldn't stand the sound of crying Baby Mario. It just drove me up a tree, didn't want anything to do with this title. But I have to thank my friend Gary from Rock Solid Productions for making me stick with it and annoying me to no end to give it another shot. Because without him, I wouldn't have done it. And over the last couple of years, this has steadily turned into one of my favorite experiences on the Super Nintendo. First and foremost, it's stunning. Absolutely gorgeous game to look at. One of the best looking games on the console, and it does something really remarkable with the platformer genre. I love the idea of being able to go through the different levels and find the different stars to actually give you more time to collect Mario if you get hurt. All the different hidden items that are in the game, the different hidden objects like the flowers and things like that. I love having to track that stuff down. And the level design is just incredibly creative and looks amazing. Again, I keep sounding like a broken record here because of how good it looks, but it's legitimately one of the best looking games on the console. Yoshi's Island is just remarkable. Confession time. It took me a while to come around on Chrono Trigger. I played it when I was younger and I liked it, but it wasn't anything compared to other RPGs on the console to me at the time. Like, it didn't hold a candle to Final Fantasy III, didn't hold a candle to Earthbound. I thought it was nice, I thought it was clever, but I don't know, it didn't click for me until I was much, much older. I started to see the brilliance of the game. The sprawling timelines, the different endings, the fact that so much is tied together and so much is reliant upon your choices just make it one of the greatest of all time. And that's before we even get to the brilliant look, the fantastic combat, the incredible soundtrack, like legit the best soundtrack on the Super Nintendo, and everything else that goes into making Chrono Trigger one of the greatest games of all time. It's a Square Enix masterpiece, and I hope that one day we get an HD 2D remaster, because I really, really think that this game should be introduced to a new audience. It's been available for years on other consoles, but I think it should be brought into the modern realm as well. It's hard to think of something more genre-defying than Super Metroid, because it just perfected everything that the original game in the series did. Now, I was not a fan of the original Metroid on the NES. I did not think it was a very good game. Thought it was kind of boring. Still do, if I'm being honest with you. But Super Metroid, that's a legit game. I vividly remember spending a summer playing through it and loving every second of it and trying to find as many secrets as possible while exploring this massive world map to find the different hidden abilities and the different hidden items and as many energy tanks and as many missile tanks as I could find in order to give me the greatest opportunity to beat this game. It's perfect. It's legitimately one of the best games ever made, not just on the Super Nintendo, but of all time. It's a masterclass in design and just a wonderful example of what you can do with a series when you don't beholden yourself too much to its origins. By stepping out and trying something a little bit different and refining the things that the first one did good, Super Metroid found perfection. This one is probably going to get some eyebrows raised at it, but I discovered Kendo Rage when my local video rental store, Video Sight and Sound in North Fort Myers, Florida, was going out of business, and they were selling all of their Super Nintendo games, and I would just go in and buy stuff. And these were games that were complete in box and gorgeous and immaculate and well-maintained and fantastic. I saw one called Kendo Rage, and it struck me as an interesting name because I didn't know a thing about it. I still don't know a whole lot about it. I know it was designed to basically be a new IP, and it just kind of floundered and didn't do much, but what I got was basically Valis with a sense of humor. It's brilliant. It's a fantastic magical girl action platformer where you run around with your magical kendo stick, beating the tar out of yokai. And it's wonderful. It's got such a silly sense of humor, it's a ridiculous concept, and such a challenging, fun game. This is a perfect example of not just sticking to the well-known titles to me. I had never heard of this one when I took a chance on it, and I'm so glad I did, because Kendo Rage is a legitimate hidden gem on the Super Nintendo, and something that I go back to constantly. This is quite possibly the most underrated RPG on the Super Nintendo, and I say that knowing how highly people value and rate this game. Super Mario RPG changed the genre. And it changed the genre for the better because it went from just a standard turn-based fare to something that started introducing timing mechanics. Something that we see to this day in games like Sea of Stars. So when you're attacking and you press the button in a certain cadence, you're going to get bonus damage dealt. And that's something that is still held today in the RPG genre. Super Mario RPG has a brilliant sense of humor. It is a fantastically designed title with a gorgeous isometric view and amazing graphics that are just so well done and such a perfect example of what the Super Nintendo is capable of. It is one of the best RPGs of all time. It's something that gets overlooked in favor of games like Earthbound, like Final Fantasy III, like Chrono Trigger. But for me, Super Mario RPG is where it's at. Look, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here talking about The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Y'all know how great it is. It is the second best Zelda game of all time, in my opinion, behind only A Link Between Worlds on the 3DS. This game is magnificent. If you have never had the opportunity to play it, I urge you to do so. It is available on the Switch Online service, and it is worth your time. It's so good. This is by far my favorite sports game on the Super Nintendo. Now, if this was a Genesis list, it would be NHL 94, but if I'm looking solely at the Super Nintendo, Super Baseball Simulator 1000 is my favorite sports title. I have played it for decades now. It is just such a remarkably simple and well-designed game that no matter what, I have fun with it. You can play basic baseball, you can play with the teams that have the different superpowers to give you special hits and special pitches and fielding abilities and things like that, the different stadiums that are in there, the full seasons that you're able to play. It's just a perfect baseball experience, and I know there's a lot of 16-bit options, and Ken Griffey Jr. Baseball is definitely up there, but this one is my favorite. This, until Super Mario Odyssey released, was, in my opinion, the finest Mario game ever made. And Super Mario Wonder is going to give it a run for its money. I've been playing that the last couple of days, and it's really, really good. But this is, to this day, the best 2D Mario game ever made. Super Mario World is perfect. I can't really say much more than that. Everything from the look of the game, the incredible soundtrack, the fantastic irreverence and silliness that the game entails, introduction of characters like Yoshi, the amazing set design and level composure. It's just a perfect gaming experience, and nothing comes close to it. When I stop and look at the Super Nintendo, to me, the genre that sticks out the most is the RPG. And there were so many incredible RPGs to choose from, whether it was Breath of Fire or it was something like Earthbound. There were so many amazing ones to choose from, but to me, the number one with a bullet, the best of the best, is Final Fantasy III or Final Fantasy VI, depending on how you want to number it. It had my favorite cast of characters in any Final Fantasy game. It was something that I've gone back to repeatedly on multiple different consoles, including today on the Switch with the Pixel remasters, and I just love it. It's just a perfect RPG experience to me, and I think the combination of the different gameplay styles and the different abilities the different characters have, by Something as simple as inputting key combinations to execute special moves, or the slot machine to give different abilities that regard, or the different espers you're able to equip to learn different magic abilities. There's so much at play in this game that all of it just works. And on top of that, you put in one of the greatest storylines in the history of the Final Fantasy universe with the best villain the series has ever seen in Kefka. It's remarkable. The thing that stands head and shoulders above everything in this game to me is the Opera House scene. That is the most memorable scene in video game history to me. All right, another one that might get a few eyebrows raised on it, but let me speak to the virtues of the adventures of Batman and Robin. When this game released, I was obsessed with Batman the Animated Series. It was, and still is, probably my favorite animated series of all time. This game captured the spirit of that cartoon perfectly well, by not only giving you the dark and moody atmosphere of the Bruce Timm and Paul Dini version of Gotham City, Batman and his rogues gallery, but also the incredible animations, the beautiful title screens, everything that went into making Batman the Animated Series great made the adventures of Batman and Robin on the Super Nintendo brilliant.
All right, there you have it, my friends. My top 10 SNES games. Some that you definitely know, some you may not have heard of before, but these are all games that I adored. And while the Genesis is my jam, and that was my 16-bit console, I still do love the Super Nintendo. Let me know in the comments down below your 10 favorite SNES games. And hey, be like me. Make your own video if you've got a channel out there. I'd love to see your take on this. Till next time, folks, I've been Jay. I appreciate you spending a little bit of time with me. Remember to play more games, stay square, and take care. I'll talk to you soon.